it's Pupmeister, and today I am in the nether because today's video is all about the nether. And what about the nether am I talking about? Food. You know, we all love it. Well, today we're going to be talking about preparation and desperation. In other words, the first part is going to be all about the different foods that you could have in the nether and how to prepare and have food if you need it. The second part, the desperation, is what if you're in the nether and you've lost your portal, or your portal is far, far away and you're running out of food? How can you survive? Where can you find food? What can you do to get food? So this is the type of stuff we are going to be talking about today. So let's get to it. So I have a bunch of stuff in here to help me out. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is some dry farming. In other words, what can you plant in the nether? Well, you can, of course, bring dirt. You're going to have to hoe it quickly, plant, and then get the bone meal and basically grow it to its max, just like that. So even if this changes or whatever, since there's no water here, this will now work. And this, of course, is watermelon. And you can do a whole bunch of those in the nether. I prefer not to because they are super slow. Super slow. And watermelon doesn't give you the best food anyway. This also works for pumpkin. But then you're going to need eggs and sugar as well if you want some kind of food like pumpkin pie, which means you're going to have chickens and a bunch of sugar. However, that's a lot of work just for a food source. So I don't really suggest that. But you need to know what works because in the end, it's up to you. So let's talk about animals, because animals are the next thing that you could bring in. Now you're going to have to put a lead on them and bring them through your portal. I guess one of the good things about animal farms in the nether is that a lot of them use lava to give you instantly cooked food once they go through your farm. And of course there's lots of lava in the nether. Another thing you can do is bring some villagers into the nether, and specifically farmers, because farmers are the ones who are going to trade emeralds for food. Things like carrots, bread, potatoes, beetroot. They'll trade it all for emeralds. Now, the only thing about that, of course, is that you're going to need emeralds in order to trade for food. So if you're in the nether and you don't have any emeralds, well, then you're going to be out of luck. Now remember, this is all the preparation side. These are things you can do to generate food in the nether, not necessarily if you're desperate and looking for food. That is coming. Now another thing you can do is you can grow cocoa beans in the nether. And I don't think I have that with me, but cocoa beans basically will grow on jungle wood, and they will grow quite nicely in the nether. And what do you want to do with that? Well, they can make cookies, basically. But they will also need wheat. In fact, it's 1 cocoa bean and 2 pieces of wheat in order to make 8 cookies. So you're going to need a big stash of wheat in the nether if you want to do that. So again, an option, but not necessarily one of the better ones. You can do the same with berry bushes as well. You can transplant them from the overworld into the nether. You will need to use a silk touch to do that. And then, use something with fortune in order to get more berries off. That is another option. Not necessarily, again, one of my faves, but I'm here to give you all your options. Now, one of the smartest things, in my opinion, is stash some food. So whether it's in your nether hub or if it's in another base somewhere far from your hub, anywhere you could be traveling where you have a little bit of a base, grab a chest. Doesn't have to be, of course, a shulker box like this one or an ender chest, but it could be a regular chest, and then just stash a stack of steak or a stack of pork chops or whatever that's ready to eat. So that's the easiest way to have a bunch of food in the nether if you're going to prepare. Now, of course, if you have a flint and steel on hand, you can actually set hoglins on fire and you'll get cooked pork chops from them. And they are not around at the moment, so I just thought I would mention that. And then you're going to need a way to cook your food as well. So you could, of course, bring a furnace into the nether, just like this, with some coal. Also, you can do a soulfire campfire, a soul campfire as they call it here. These are all things that will cook your food. So let's take a look at the different methods here. And so you've got two here. I've got a bunch of raw pork chops. So of course we know what happens with the furnace. They cook up right in there. For campfires, you right click and they cook up to 4. So there you go. And those are cooking. And now the difference is, when these pork chops are done, they'll be sitting here waiting for you. But when it comes to the soul campfires, as you can see, when they're done, they pop off the campfire, just like that. And then you have to come over and collect them. So if you're not around, you have the potential of them despawning on you, which is not that fun. But at the same time, as we slowly move into desperation, if you need a place to cook your hoglins, for example, because hoglins are one of the best natural foods you can find in the nether. Now, the problem is you have to be in a crimson forest like I am right now. And now that I'm mentioning them and looking all over the Crimson Forest, do you think we can find one hoglin anywhere? No. Oh, there, down there. There's a bunch of hoglins right there. So, if you need to cook your pork chops you're getting from hoglins, in order to make a campfire in the nether, if you don't have the things you need, you're going to need to find a warped forest, which is the green forest with all the endermen, or a crimson forest like this. And you can, of course, chop down the trees just like this, and you'll get what you need. This acts just like wood. So if you put it in your crafting, you can get planks, you can make 4, And there you have a crafting table. You can throw that down. And then once you have a crafting table, just from nether things, you can create a campfire. So you need to put 3 of the crimson stems in, like that, and then a soul sand or a soul soil, and then 3 sticks, just like that. And that will give you your soul campfire. So you can make something to cook your stuff, no problem. And of course, if you weren't sure, you can make sticks out of the stems as well. Okay? So one of the other things that you can do is you can create mushroom stew. Mushroom stew is a viable option for food in the nether. Now these, yeah, they may look like mushrooms, but they are not. Okay, they are crimson fungus. And if by chance you're in a place like this, which is kind of hard to imagine, but maybe you find yourself like on a little platform or something in a crimson or warped forest area, and you don't have any of the trees with you, or you may have chopped them down and used them all in your area. Just going to give you some options here, things you might not know. You can bone meal the ground, and it will give you a fungus, just like that. And then if you bone meal the fungus, it turns into a full-fledged tree. You can even get stuff like the shroom lights just by doing that. And what is the Soul Sand Valley good for, other than a heck of a lot of gas? A bunch of skeletons and fossils. Oh, gee, there he is over there. Gotta hide. So fossils are great because it gives you bone meal. And each block gives you 9 bone meal. And when it comes to the Soul Sand Valley, you've got fossils everywhere. And skeletons as well. There's more fossils. There's lots of skeletons in the Soul Sand Valley as well. And of course, if you kill them, you get their bones, and that's more. Oh, gee, I didn't see you. Okay, so let's talk about being desperate. You're in the nether. You can't find your portal, or you're very far from your portal, and your food is out, and your bar is going down and down and down. How do you survive? Where do you get food? Well, let's talk about a couple things. One, and this is rare, and it's only by chance that you're going to come across it, but we all know about ruined portals in the overworld. But you can actually come across ruined portals in the nether as well. I know I have. Not very often, but I do. And if you do come across those ruined portals, the chests that are by them may have food. What kind of food? Well, anything in those chests are going to be gold covered. So maybe you'll get a golden carrot, a golden apple, a glistening melon. Who knows? But there could be some food for you in that chest. So that is one of the options when you are desperate. Not necessarily the best, that's for sure, because they're so rare. But if you do see one, well, you know there could be food in there for you. The one that's probably going to be your best source next to mushrooms. Mushrooms are pretty good, and I'll cover those in a second. But zombie pigmen are probably going to be one of your best sources. So let's take a look at that right now. So the nether wastes are also going to be your buddy, because there are two main things. Oh, well, actually three main things that you can find in the nether wastelands. And one is a chicken, which is up there. There is a 0.25% chance that a baby zombie piglin may be riding a chicken when you come across him in the nether wastelands. And I think that's where that chicken came from. And of course, if you have a chicken, well, there's a chance that they'll lay eggs and they might make more chickens. But if you're desperate, you probably want to kill them and get some chicken. The second thing are zombie pigmen, because they have rotten flesh. Now, rotten flesh, of course, is probably not your first thing that you would want to eat. Where are you going? I want to... There you go. So I've hit him. Okay, so he's coming. And so are the others. Look, and there's more. Sure, now there's a ton of them. Look at them all now. So I have sort of a trap here, but I meant to get one ready first, to be honest. I meant to get the trap ready first, and I didn't. Oops. Okay, so let's deal with this. I died. So let that be a lesson. If you are not prepared, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Have you ever heard that one? Well, guess what? Just happened to me. So I'm putting it all back. At least I haven't lost anything. I still have all my good stuff, so that's good. I'm going to show you the farm that you can make very quickly to prepare for getting some rotten flesh. Okay? So you're going to want to make a wall just like that, and then you're going to want to take out the row underneath it. And then over here, you want to go down one and go all the way that way. Just like this. And this will give you a place where you can hit them and they can't get you. Okay? The only thing you're going to have to worry about are baby zombie piglin. And you can always look around and see if there are any. But even if one comes later, the big guys can't hurt you. So just focus on killing the little guy and you'll be fine. So let me show you how this works. Have blocks ready, just like that. And of course, you gotta hit one to try to get them to start coming after you. There we go. Alright, so here they come, just like that. Go to your blocks. Now you want to go down here. And if they... Oh, and there's a little guy, so kill him first, very quickly, just like that. If you... Well, let's say I don't have food. So now you want to kill all these guys, just like that. Okay? And that gives you, look at all the rotting flesh, the delicious, delicious rotting flesh. How many do we have? 24. Okay? So now let me just tell you, I'm just going to hide in here for a sec. But let me tell you, when it comes to rotten flesh, it has an 80% chance of inflicting hunger for 30 seconds. So when you eat it, you'll probably get hit with the hunger. But the beautiful part is that it doesn't stack. So you can eat this entire stack of 24 rotten flesh. See, there you go. I've got the hunger and I'm full, so I can't eat anymore. But if I was like 1 bar left, half a bar left, I could eat all 22 of these rotten flesh and fill up my bar. And that is probably one of the easiest ways to survive. Just make sure you have something like this ready. Because if you don't and you get trapped somewhere, well, you saw what happened to me. And I had netherite and I have a darn good sword as well. Look at this, sweeping edge 3, sharpness 5, and I still died. Because sometimes there are just too many of them. But if you get yourself prepared like this, and then make sure they're not following you too closely. Because if they're following you too closely, they'll be right behind you and you won't be able to place the block down. Okay? So make sure there's a bit of a space between you. And even if, you know, like that first one, he was too close. So I just backed up really quick and threw down a block. And then he couldn't go any further. And it was just me and that little baby dude. And that's the guy to focus on immediately first, because he's the guy who could kill you. But once he's dead, all the other guys are just sitting ducks. And that is eating rotten flesh and what the nether wastes is good for. Chicken, the zombie piglin, and of course, we can't forget mushrooms. This is where you're going to find a ton of mushrooms. Now, in order to make mushroom stew, unfortunately, you need 1 brown mushroom and 1 red mushroom. So you're going to have lots of brown mushrooms here, but you're going to have to start searching for red mushrooms. So collect mushrooms as you find them. There's more brown, so as I said, there's going to be a lot of mushrooms around here, but it may be a little more difficult to find the red ones, especially if you have to deal with guys like that hanging around. So anyway, you're probably going to have to look for 1 of each. Now, if you did some preparation, you can have 1 of each of the mushrooms ready to go already. And I strongly suggest preparing. Do some preparing. Don't get desperate. Do some preparing. And then you won't have to be in that position where you are desperate and you need to eat all the rotten flesh. Instead, you can eat some delicious steak, just like me. There we go. Now remember, you're going to need 1 of each of the mushrooms to make mushroom stew. So one other thing you can do, which I forgot to kind of get into in the preparation part, and that is you could farm mushrooms. It works best with mycelium. So if you've ever come across a mushroom island or a mushroom fields biome, that's where you get the mycelium. You can put a whole bunch down, put some mushrooms on, maybe have a red mushroom farm and a brown mushroom farm, and they will slowly spread over the mycelium. But it's a slow process. So that's why I don't recommend farming mushrooms in the nether. In the overworld, it's so easy to farm mushrooms. You can get tons. And I'll actually link my everything you need to know about mushrooms video at the end of this video, because it'll show you how to make a ton of mushrooms real fast in the overworld. So not necessarily something you want to do in the nether. But unfortunately, you are going to have to find both mushrooms in order to make food from them in the nether. And if you don't have wood, you can use the stems in either of the forests in the nether. But basically, you just need to make a V form with the planks, and it'll give you 4 bowls. And then once you have a bowl, and you have one of each mushroom, just like this, you can put a bowl, and then one of each mushroom, and then there's your mushroom stew. And that's, you know, it's a decent source of food as well. Like I said, the Crimson Forest is probably the best place you could find yourself if you're starving without any food, because there are a lot of hoglins. And just to show you how to deal with the hoglins, whoops. Okay, run, and then go up, and you need to go up 3, okay? Just like that. And once you have 3, you can crouch, and then you can hit them. Just like this, but they cannot hit you. And there you go, okay? And it gives you, of course, leather and pork chops. And if you have a nice looting 3 sword like I do, then it will give you even more pork chops. Now the other thing that you can do, but it's not quite as great, just for the reason that you don't know where the heck the hoglins are going to come from. So if you make something like this, just like every 2 or something like that, maybe you might want to make them 3 high just to be safe. You can even use some trees like I'm using here. The hoglins will not be able to get through this, so that you can just run in here, and then with distance, because if you get too close they will hit you, but with distance you'll be able to hit them in safety. So you could always make one of these so you do have a place to run and hide if you need to. Ah, there's one. Okay, so he's coming, and here I am inside. As you can tell, he can't get in, but we can still hit him. Okay, just like that. So that's what I wanted to show you here. Now, you can eat raw pork chops, so if you're in desperate need, you can still eat them. But they barely, I think they only give you 1 raw, and they give you 3 food bars when they're cooked. So much better to cook them if you can. But if you're completely desperate, you can always eat them raw. And like I said, all you're going to need is a soul sand or a soul soil, and you can make yourself a campfire like this where you can cook them. If you would rather make a furnace and you don't have a furnace and you're in the nether and you're lost or whatever, you can make a furnace with blocks that are in the nether, just in case you did not know that. Now the block you're going to need is blackstone. Okay, so blackstone only generates naturally in the nether. You'll find it under the lava ocean, in bastion remnants, in veins near the bottom of the world, and all over the place in the basalt delta biomes. Don't confuse cobbled deep slate, which you can find in the overworld in the deeper, because that's kind of dark. Here there's lots of light, so it looks nice and light and gray, especially compared to the black stone. But if it's not lit up, this can look pretty dark as well. So don't confuse that. It's the black stone that you need. And when you have the black stone, you can just use it just like cobblestone, and you can create a furnace with the blackstone just like that. Now the problem is, if you don't have coal with you, that could be a problem when you have a furnace, because remember, if your only source of wood is the warped forest or the crimson forest here with the stems don't burn. Stems do not burn. Do I have some stems? Yes, I do. So if you put stems in your furnace, hoping that it'll work like logs, no. It won't even allow you to put them in. You can put them in up here, but again, what's the point? It will not burn. So that's part of your problem when it comes to a furnace. So you're going to need either coal or planks from the overworld. Now, if you're in bedrock, you can actually use nether bricks and or gold nuggets and iron nuggets as fuel as well. So there's lots of gold nuggets in the nether, so there's a fuel source for you. Us in Java, unfortunately, are not so lucky. However, the furnaces do burn 25% faster. They will cook things 25% faster than they would in the overworld without increased fuel consumption. So that, at least, is a good thing. And that, my friends, is how to prepare and get food in the nether, what works in the nether, and what you can possibly do in order to get food if you're starving. Just don't be like me and not prepare some sort of zombie piglin safety farm before you hit them. And then get trapped somewhere like I did. I thought it's been so long since I was in that farm, I thought that there would be a safe place for me, but I was terribly wrong. So don't do anything like that. So hopefully you learned something in this video, and I will be seeing you soon. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.